and thank you for listening to The Bo's Knows, a podcast about QI Roberts Jr. Senior High School in Putnam County, Florida. I'm your host, Mr. Bose, and today we'll be talking with special guests from our AP Calculus class. Welcome and thank you for joining me. Please introduce yourselves to our listeners.
Hi, I'm Riley Blackmer.
Hi, I'm Reagan Blackmer.
My name is Nathaniel Stairs.
Thank you for joining me. So before we get into talking about AP, listeners, let me start with a first disclaimer. No bribery was issued for the production of this podcast. These are their honest answers.
We will all confirm that, yes.
Yeah, there was no
I
extra
consent.
credit.
All right, so first couple questions. What is your favorite subject or topic in school and why?
Well, I would say math. That's definitely why I'm on the podcast today. I've always just liked how there's always an answer. There's formulas. I don't know.
I think I'm going to say math too. It's pretty fun. I think it can be applied to a wide variety of things you actually use in your everyday life.
For me, it's probably a mix between science and math just because, they kind of work on each other. But science is pretty much what, explains everything. So I've always seen it as if you can understand it, you can kind of make anything you want to do happen.
Very good. So what is your favorite QI story or tradition?
I'll go first, I guess, since I've probably been here the longest. I'd probably say the senior pranks. But yeah, actually, trash that. It's probably going to be the lip dub. Lip dub is probably my favorite thing so far. I hadn't been in it before, but the years before, they weren't so great. When I first came here, they're actually really funny. And watching them do it, I'd always been like, hey, that seems pretty cool if, everyone actually get together and put some time into it. And this year, we actually had an organized group do it in student government. And we figured everything out. And I was actually able to do it. And I think so far, we've got, 1,000 views on it so far?
I was just checking. We are up to 2,600 views.
Wow.
So yeah, obviously we were a little more successful than we were last time.
Okay, so I would definitely say I really like the pinning ceremony. I think it's a great way to show our parents and our friends and our family our accomplishments from these ACE exams, since it is a little different from anything else within the county. So I think it's just a nice little reminder of, why we show up and do the hard work each day.
I think I'm a big fan of our pep rallies. I think it's something everybody kind of looks forward to. I think there's a lot of student involvement, and it's just overall a good time.
Very good. Nice cross-section of all the things we have to offer here at QI. So next question is, if you could have coffee with anyone dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I think with senior year coming up, I'd want to have coffee with Mr. Theobald so I can start planning senior year.
If I could choose anybody, it'd probably be Mr. Belcher. Just because, whenever he's teaching, he's kind of got to be a teacher. But I feel like, off scene and backstage, he's kind of a really chill guy. And he likes a lot of music and, he shows his character. So I feel like he'd be a very trustful person, and probably a really good friend.
I would agree. I think I'm going to go with Mr. Bergen. He just got his new motorcycle, so I think it'd be fun to have a conversation with him about that.
Very good. And the last of our introductory questions, quality, integrity, respect. Which one and why?
I guess I'll take this one first. I definitely think integrity, because without integrity, I think your respect isn't really valued. And for quality to work, you need integrity.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like quality is kind of our topmost thing here just because, we're not really a big school. So there's only so many teachers and students that are able to come here and actually put the work in. But, if you've been here long enough, especially if you're a teacher, you've probably seen people that put, their lives and souls into projects and work. And, that really reflects on, where they go in life and whatnot. So I feel like, a lot of the students here put a lot of work and, they really care about what the teachers think and how their parents perceive it and whatnot. So I think that's why grades and whatnot are so good here.
Very good. So let's dive into talking about AP Calculus. So why don't the three of you tell our listeners a little bit about the class itself?
So the first unit is limits, and then we start working with differentiation, and then we do integration, and the topics get more complex as you go throughout the year.
But I think one of the most important things is that it's not really like the math that's hard. It's more of like understanding the concepts and just it's always about trying each day, giving your 110%. I know some days it's harder than others, but it's all worth it in the end.
Yeah, jumping from algebra to calculus is, one of the biggest steps, any sort of person will take if they want to go into this sort of field, especially if you like, engineering or any sort of science or physics. You're going to have to eventually learn this stuff and understand it. Compared to algebra, it's like, you go from multiplying, you got to find out the variable, but now you have to figure out what graphs, how curves, functions work. It's a whole nother universe in and of itself. So every single step is like jumping from arithmetic to multiplication. When you see that first like square root, you're like, no, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, I can't do this. That's like that every day learning here.
So why did each of you choose to take calculus?
So last year I took ACE Math and I really enjoyed having Mr. Bose as a teacher. So I was like, why not take calculus this year? And I think also you just realize that you're going to have to eventually learn this in college at some point. So it's nice to kind of see it at this level and be able to get more help and, have more resources available to you. So yeah.
I've been taking math classes here for, a long time, of course. And I had always kind of enjoyed it, and algebra was probably one of my favorite times, especially with Colonel Ski. He had done a really good job of teaching us that. But during that time was the actual COVID scene and whatnot, so we had actually been taken out of school. And I came very close to failing it because I hadn't done any work because he didn't sign any. But, somehow I was able to pull it off and become like one of the top students. And I guess from that, I was able to be put into ACE Math. And I'd done that for 2 years. And now I'm doing AP Calculus because we decided to switch it over.
I chose to take AP Calc just because I like when math challenges me. I felt that like I'd get more of a challenge out of AP Calc than AP Stats.
All right, so now, actually, do a side question first. If you had to do it all over again, would you make the same choice?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I would.
I would, but I'd probably make a lot more better decisions on the way.
Do my homework on time and
I would agree, but I think you definitely start the year with a new perspective. Like, there's a lot of work you have to do, and it's not easy. It's definitely a challenge. Like, it was more of a challenge than I expected it to be this year, and you kind of learn that you've got to actually do the work, do your homework, try your best.
All right, so here's the hard part of the podcast. Why should other students want to take the class?
I think because it applies to so a lot of kids want, to go out and do, have really great careers like engineering, construction, and the medical field. And calculus applies to all of those. Calculus is involved in everything. I think from our discussion post, we've learned a lot about what calculus can be used in. So I just think because it applies to so many careers out there, it's very integral in your life.
Going off of that, I would say just you gain a lot of critical thinking skills. I mean, the problem, it's not like it tells you exactly what to do. You have to figure it out. You have to use what you know, use the formulas. Think about, okay, well, what do I have? What do I need to get? And, what question is it actually asking me? So I think it's a way to develop your critical thinking skills. It's something new each day. It's just overall a fun time.
There's a lot of different things that you can get from calculus itself. Like, back when you're a young little boy or girl or whatever, you don't really think a whole lot about things and know how stuff works. But once you delve into math, you kind of realize 2 + 2 = 4 and all that. And over time, it gets more and more complex to the point where you're learning about expansion, compression, curves, all these crazy things that you can't really make out when you first see it. It's like learning a different language, or even just being a child. Being around your parents, as long as they just mimic stuff and you sort of like try it, and it's a ton of trial and error, you'll eventually, understand some things. And from that, you can build off of it and become, honestly, just a crazy person. But you'll be really good at pretty much anything you do.
Very good. So you all kind of talked a little bit about it before the last question, but what are some tips you would give to students taking the course in subsequent years?
Do your homework on time. Ask for help on the homework.
I definitely say it's important, like, even though, like, these hour-and-a-half classes are long, and especially in calculus, it's important to try the whole time, because that 10 minutes that you decide to zone out is the 10 minutes that made it all make sense. So I think it's definitely showing up each day to class, trying your best, and not zoning out and be like, I'm not doing this today, doesn't make sense, because it all builds on each other, and it's not like you can stop one day and start the next day and get it. So it's definitely a challenge to do that, but it's worth it.
Yeah, you can kind of compare, learning calculus like, going to a gym or doing some crazy extreme training, just because it's not very physical. Well, yes, it is, like on your sleep and whatnot, but mentally it can be absolutely draining. If you put, 6 hours in one night kind of thing, you'll be like, this is impossible. I can't do this, just because, you try to do it all one night, homework, whatever. But if you every day you just try it, and eventually you'll get better and better. It is pretty much the same as, weight training or whatever. It's all about just repetition and really applying yourself and not falling behind. Because as soon as you do, it'll be like that summer break where you forget all of it, and you're like, oh, I just spent that whole year learning or trying to learn all this stuff, and I just came back and forgot it all. So you really got to be on point and just be ready to take tests, do homework, prepare yourself.
And I think another thing is taking advantage of your resources. I think with AP Calc, there's so many things online, on YouTube, even Khan Academy, that can get you exactly the help that you need. I know our notes even follow these videos that you can watch and have it explained another way, too.
Alrighty, very good. Last thing for you, but not quite the last thing, second to last thing. What's your favorite part of the class been, or your most memorable story from the class?
I'd probably go with learning about, temperature and whatnot, just because I'd always, found it really interesting, especially in chemistry and whatnot, because chemistry is one of my favorite classes I've taken. Just figuring out all these intricacies and whatnot, and, kind of realizing that, it's not, just magic, it's real, it's happening. It's not, just a part of some one big, whatever, but it kind of opens up your mind, and you can kind of see things in a whole different ways, especially forces and how, earthly bodies and astronomy and all that works, just because I personally love astrophysics and whatnot. Just learning about how things can be, infinite or whatever, and, thinking about black holes, it kind of puts you in a crazy spin in your head and whatnot, but you kind of realize that there's so many things out there that you'll never really experience, but you can imagine it in your mind and just think about there's stuff out there that we can't even comprehend is happening, or mathematically it's impossible, but it's actually going on. So it's just crazy to think about, contemplate, think about there and meditate and whatnot, or kind of realize how crazy this place is.
I think the classroom community is definitely one of my favorite parts about the class. I mean, we're all learning something very complex, and I think just the group trying to learn it and working together is definitely my favorite part.
And I think in addition to that, as as much as some days those cards can be annoying, it's really nice to just be able to work with different people, especially if one day you're able to help someone else and then the next day someone's able to help you. I think it really it creates that community, because everyone's trying to help each other, and it just allows you to learn from different people, different ways to do the math.
Very good. So last thing I have is this question is actually just for Nate, as the senior on the podcast. What's next for you?
So I was accepted into the University of Florida for
congratulations.
But yeah, me along with I think 10 or 11 or 12 of the students who are also graduating. But I had went ahead and put down College of Engineering as my choice. So, hopefully I stick to it. But, I really like engineering and all that, so, pray for me. But
we will be.
Taking these classes, I'd say probably are going to put me 1,000 steps ahead of all these other students who don't have this chance, or, can't, figure it out as well as, students here who take these kind of classes can. So it really gives you an advantage over just the general populace, because, there's at least 90% of adults who have no idea what half of this stuff is or can even comprehend it. So it'll give you that edge just in general. But yeah.
Very good, and congrats on UF and engineering. So anything else for our listeners before we sign off today?
Take calculus. You won't regret it.
Only for a little bit.
Alrighty. Thank you for being here. Listeners, if you like the podcast, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you can catch future episodes, and be sure to give QI Roberts Student Government a follow on Facebook and Instagram to stay up to date on future episodes and happenings around QI. If you feel we've earned it, please rate and review us on your podcast player of choice and share with a friend. Thank you, Knights, and remember, excellence in all endeavors.